Hello and welcome to the Tales from the Sale. I'm Brian Jones, today's host. This is our inaugural episode, and I'd like to welcome Hank Eimer, a veteran of the real estate world with 20 plus years of experience under his belt. Short and stumpy he may be, but ladies and gentlemen, this man is a closer. He's been there, he's seen it all, he's sold it all, and now has managed it all despite his slightly below average looks. Hank, welcome to the show. Glad you could be here. Thanks for being our first interviewee / victim, maybe contestant, if we had a
prize
to the surprise to the season.
It's a heck of an introduction.
Yep. Hank, tell us what led you to real estate.
Oh, we're jumping right in.
Well, tell us who you are first.
Okay. Well, like you said, I'm Hank Eimer. I am the broker in charge and owner of Coldwell, Boyd & Hassell here in Hickory. We have been here since 1968 as Boyd & Hassell. In 1983, Harry McComb brought the franchise here and kept the name Boyd & Hassell, who was Jim Hassell and Glenn Boyd. And he kept that name because it was a well-known name in the community. Those two had not been in that firm since '79 when he bought it from him. And so he brought the Coldwell Banker name to Hickory in '83. We're one of the longest, especially in the area, longest tenured Coldwell Banker firms around.
Is Harry still involved?
He's not. So I got my license in '02, and I know we'll talk a little bit about this, but I got my license in '02 to just help my wife, and just with her business because she was getting involved in it. And then in '04, the career path that I was on, I realized I was going to have to move. There was going to have to be major changes. I kind of reevaluated what I was going to do, and so I decided, hey, if you want me as a partner, Reagan, let's go down that hole. So at that point, Harry was broker in charge of our firm. I sold from '04 to '15. And then in '15, I purchased half of our firm, became his partner. He was our broker in charge. I took on that label, which he was happy to give me. And then in 2000, I finished it off and bought the rest of his half. So since 2000, I have not had a partner.
Did he give you a fabulous son-in-law discount?
Have you ever met my father-in-law? There is no discount to be had.
There's no discount.
Fair market value, baby.
That's
fair market value.
What he did his whole life, and you needed to earn it. So there you go. What were you doing before?
I sold pharmaceuticals. So I came back to Hickory trying to figure out if I was going to go to get my master's or just didn't know what I was going to do. And as I was here, I started interviewing and took a job with Bristol Myers Squibb, did that for just about 3 years, and then went on to be a hospitalist. I just sold to hospitals. And so I did that for Western North Carolina until I decided to get in here.
Regret the move or pretty pleased with your decision?
Pretty pleased with it. I mean, I think at the time it was more of a necessity. Like I said, I was offered a position in New Jersey. I asked Reagan, hey, do you want to go there? The answer was a quick no. And in that industry, if you don't take that promotion, you're not going to get a chance for another one. I said, what are we doing? If we're not doing that, what are we doing? And so I ended up, and it was a good time. I mean, I without getting too far into it, my wife had a health issue and was coming back from it. And it was a good time for us to start. Real estate in '04 was starting to kind of really blow up from '04 to '07. And so it was a great time to partner with her. It wasn't like starting new because she had some momentum. I was from Hickory. So as a team, it was a lot easier than some of the new agents that we bring on that don't have a sphere or not familiar with the area. So it was easy for us. And then 08, 9, 10 hit.
Yeah, we'll get to those years. Did Harry want you to join? I mean, was he pretty excited about you?
So I think Harry does a really good job of not telling you what to do. Like, he wants to hear your evaluation. He lets you make a decision, and it might be 10 years later that he'll say, hey, that was a good decision. So he really didn't express that. I think he was excited that there was the potential for a exit strategy, because Reagan is an RN by education, and he never thought she was going to come back. And he thought if she did come back, she was going to keep that RN, probably would go back, either go back to school. And so I think when I got into it, he realized, okay, I'm not going to have to find a buyer in the community. I've got an active audience in front of me, which he did. And I think he kind of had a sigh of relief for the fact that he knew that when he decided to step down, or he would have somebody to kind of go to.
Take it over. When you got in, was Harry or anyone a mentor to you?
So Harry was definitely a mentor, but he was in a role. He was our broker in charge, and he would stand beside you if there was a problem. But he really developed property. That's what he did. So if you were to walk into our office and you had a problem, you didn't go to Harry. You went to Fran Redden. Fran Redden was our sales manager for over 30 years, and people would call her the Yoda of real estate. She knew everything. Other firms would ask her to come to their firm to educate them on form changes. She was...
We need Fran here.
Exactly. That's who you need.
We might have another interviewee in the
You need
future.
Fran. You need Fran. So I had Harry as far as the idea of if I ever wanted to go into development, what did that look like? And oddly enough, it changed from the time I got into it to where we are now. And then Fran really showed me how to manage a sales force, how to take on problems, walking into a room with everybody at gunpoint, how to manage a staff, and what that looks like, because we have support, which our firm's a little bit different than most. So she really did a great job of kind of getting me ready for it. So I certainly think Harry is my mentor now as a business owner, but as a leader in a real estate environment with agents, Fran did an amazing job.
How much do you ever reach out to Fran or Harry anymore with current issues, questions? We all have stuff that comes across our plate that we think we've seen it all, and then lo and behold, no, we haven't.
Right. Yeah. I do it probably. Harry, I talk to a lot because we do a lot together. We have a great relationship. And so I talk to him a lot, and he doesn't always want to hear about real estate. Like, he'll walk past my office and he'll see me kind of like rubbing my face, and he's like, glad it's you and not me, babe. So, but I'll call or I'll talk about something with Harry probably once a month, once every other month. I'm not the kind of guy that thinks I know too much and I'm too proud to ask somebody. I have brokers in charge that call me, and I'm not to a point where I would never be to the point where I'm saying, no, I'm not going to help you. We're in this together. And if you've done one transaction, you've only done one, because they're all weird. But Fran, I'll call every other month, every third month, something like that. So, I certainly don't know everything.
Yeah, there you go. I can tell by the look of you, you certainly don't. But back when you were selling as an agent, you and Reagan are working as a team. Tell me about your first sale.
So I was thinking about this because I knew you were going to ask this, and I couldn't remember the exact first one. Is that not ridiculous? Wow. I know, because Reagan, you got to think about it. Reagan had like things going on, right? So I was peripheral to her sales, right? And so I was thinking about like, where would my first one have been?
So I see what you mean. Like, you were partnering with her, and there maybe you're dabbling in her sales. Tell me about the first time you stepped out, met that client at the house, put them in your car, hauled and hoped, showed them around. What was it?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'll tell you two stories, okay? Great. One of them was a very good friend of mine, okay? CJ Hines, okay? Reagan had sold him his first house. We put his first house on the market. It sold immediately. I would consider him one of our best clients. And I only say that because we've shown him 2 houses and he's bought 2 houses.
That's fantastic.
Fantastic, right? So
CJ, I'll get you my phone number.
If you think he's listening right now. I've taken to a house, and it was an easy sell. We figure out he likes it, what the price we're going to, put it under contract for. We put it all together. But, it could have been one of the...
Real quick, was he or Jenny the decision maker?
He was not with Jenny yet. They were dating. He was getting ready to ask.
Oh, wow.
They both had input in it, but I think they had equal. Let's put it that way. Okay. They had, she did.
Answer.
Yeah. They had equal because Jenny, they were getting ready and I think she didn't, she didn't know it. So they were, let's say equal, but CJ from that point forward, every time something went wrong, called me. Okay. Just like every
Toilet clogs.
Yeah.
Hank.
Grass is high.
Yeah,
Grass is high.
What's going on?
But I will tell you as we make mistakes as agents that are early. Yeah. And one of the funnier things that happened in that is we closed on, say, a Friday. Okay. And we were young at that time and he needed help moving some stuff in on Friday night, which is awful. Right. So what do? We load up trucks and cars and we go in there. Well, he had an F-150. So we load up his F-150 and we pull up the driveway and we start taking stuff out and we get done. And he goes to put his truck in the driveway and it won't fit. Oh. Just a little bit too long. Monday, he had traded his truck in for a shorter vehicle.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was my first transaction. I'll say my first transaction. Okay.
It was with CJ and a short truck.
Right. The other one that I remember that I'll tell you is I had this idea of what these people, we all have these ideas of what people want, what we think they want, what their wife would want, what the husband want. Yep. And there was a really young couple, really cool couple that I got as a referral from a friend, and they were looking for privacy. He was a woodworker and kind of wanted a shed or could make his garage into something. But we found this home down 40 in kind of Hildebrand area, and there was a wood shop that was amazing.
So perfect.
Amazing.
Teed up.
House was small. In my mind, I was like, there is no way that this guy is going to get away with buying this house. That is, the value of it is all in the shed.
All in the tools.
All in the tools, all in the shed, right? They bought it. I don't know how he did it, but they bought it. And to his credit, it was like one of my first. I was like, okay, maybe there's hope for me.
You could do it.
Maybe there's hope.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe there's hope.
That's awesome.
Do you remember your first sale?
I do. It took 1 year and 3 weeks to the day after I entered the real estate world.
Wow.
My sales manager had told me when he sat down, he said, when you come here, it will be a year before you sell a house. And he couldn't have been more accurate. And I sold it to a really nice lady up in Boone. I thought I would, I didn't know protocol then. I bought a bottle of wine for her as the
closing
gift. And I bought a bottle of wine for the other agent because I thought he'd been really helpful. He hadn't been a jerk. And he'd been in it a long time. And so I showed up at his office and handed him the bottle of wine. And he's like, what's this? And I was like, thank you gift. And it's 2000, and it's end of 2000, 2001 time period. And I'd bought a $25 bottle of wine. Inflation, maybe that's $500. I don't know. Probably $1,000 bottle of wine.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And I handed it to him, and he goes, oh, this is great. We don't drink, but I'm sure we can use it to cook with. Oh, man. I was like, okay, well, whatever. So he wasn't as gracious as I thought. And anyway, that's it. That was my first sale. And I think she's still in the house.
Oh.
Still happy and, whatever. So that worked out. Let's see. So showing a house, you're into it. You finally... not making Reagan do all the work. You're out there hollering and hoping, showing houses. Have you ever come across something that has kind of made you pause? Have you walked in on anything?
Sure. Okay. So I'll tell you, I'll tell you a couple stories. Okay. The first one that's not very sexy is I've walked into a house and there was a load of fecal dog, cat, just all over the house, right? And so it's like you're walking around it, and you're like these people were ready to show the house. Like the house looked pretty good. And I kept talking to myself, maybe this animal has like a problem. Like maybe it just got ill or something like that. So explain. So you're walking around, you're trying to talk to the features. The smell is ridiculous. And you're pointing out features, right? So that's one. My favorite.
It's like showing a house with an alarm, like a fire alarm going off. You're trying to ignore it, and it's just ruined everything.
Right.
And
I've had two people. I've had one where I've walked into a house and there was a teenage kid. You know, you undo the lockbox and you open the door. And I was walking in. Kid jumps up off the couch. He's like, "Oh, I mean, I'm sorry," and he runs out. Well, his mom was asleep in her bedroom. And I walk in and she's asleep, you know, under the covers. And she wakes up and she was like, "Oh, it's fine. I'll just stay under the covers." And so we walk to the master bath.
we need to see your master bath.
So
Please stay still.
We walk to the master bath and we come back. But the two stories that I always love to talk about is there was a house in Lakeland Park that over near Geithner Park. And it was early on a Saturday morning, very early on a Saturday morning, 8:30. So I pull up to the house and there are cars all in the yard, like everywhere. There's like 15 cars. And so I was like, let me just go up to the door before we all go up there. So I knock on the door and this kid comes to the door and he is completely disheveled. Hair's a mess, right? He's probably 20. And he goes, "Oh my God, you're here to show the house." And I said, "I am." And he goes, "This is my grandmother's house. I brought a bunch of buddies from App down and we stayed up all last night drinking." And I said, "Well, how bad is it?" And he pulled the door back, and it looked like Jonestown. I mean, there were people on the ground, couches, bottles.
Jonestown level.
There was debris everywhere, human debris everywhere. And he goes, "How much time can you give me?" I said, "I've got 3 other homes to show, and they're all right here. So probably an hour." Okay. So I tell my people, they're amused. We go look at the other 3. We come back, there's not a car there. We go in, and it is spotless. It doesn't smell. I wish that kid would have come back so I could congratulate him on the work that he did in that hour. Because I'm sure everybody else woke up to a fire drill.
He needs to go into the house cleaning business. What it sounds like. That's incredible.
It was.
Did they buy the house?
They did not buy the house, and I felt so bad. I felt so bad that I put those kids through there.
I wouldn't feel a hint of guilt on that one. It's hilarious.
So the last story that I always like to tell is there was a guy that was coming in town, and he was a neurosurgeon. You know, I was doing a tour for the hospital, and he wanted to look at 1 or 2 houses, smaller houses, because he was dating a girl, but he was like, "I don't want to buy anything big, but I could rent it possibly later on." And so there was a couple houses like in Hillcrest behind Holy Trinity and, you know, some really cool neighborhoods. And so we looked at one and he was like, "Yeah, that's great." So we went to the other one that was a rental. Okay. And so when we walked into the living room, there was a couch and some filming equipment and lighting. And we're like, this is just an odd setup, right? And so we walked into the other rooms, and the other rooms were like different like sets, okay? And so we walked from room to room to room, and then the weird thing that we got to the master bedroom, and we walk in, and there was like a 2-foot water bong sitting in the master bathroom.
I thought you were going to say pole.
No. Yeah. And we walk in, and not knowing it's this man and his girlfriend. I was like, whoa. Yeah. Whoa. We just walked in on something. And the guy stood there, and he looked at neurosurgeon. He sat there, and he looked at it, and he goes, "You know, statistically, the bag's within 15 feet. And you broke the ice. Very good humor.
Got it.
Very good humor. We got out of there. He's like, "I don't think I feel comfortable purchasing this place." So we got out of there. But for me, that's what you love about real estate is you open the door and you're going to get met by whatever you're met with. And it's really comes down to how the agent can respond on their feet.
Do you, when you open that lockbox, or when you did, when was the last time you showed a house?
I mean, like for myself to sell, 2015.
Yeah. Do you knock? Do you just open the lockbox and do you walk right in?
I knock. We've done it long enough that
I've debated bringing a foghorn, like. It's incredible what you walk into.
Oh, it is. But anymore, the last thing I want to do is get caught by somebody that, there was actually a time where showing time, which is the service that allows us to get in homes, there were two houses that were side by side, and they got me in the one beside the one that I wanted. Right. And so I go in, they give me the lockbox for the wrong house, and they made the plan for the house I wanted to get into, right? But they sent me the lockbox for the other one, and they said it was fine to go in that one. So I got into both of them, and the homeowner didn't know it. And I walked in that one, and the guy was in the kitchen cooking, right? And it was like, "Who are you?" "Oh, who are you?" And there was a split second there that I realized I'm in this guy's living room, and he could possibly be very upset about it.
Absolutely.
So, it's you get caught off guard.
Yeah, you do. You certainly do. That's it. It is we walk into some weird situations, and you definitely want to blow the foghorn, see how it goes. Let's see. Have you ever had a client that you're showing a house ever do anything unusual?
Now, you're going to peg me because a lot of these are the same kind of like genre here.
It's always about CJ.
No. So I had a doctor here in town that wanted to look at some property. And and you're talking about things that are kind of embarrassing. And we went and looked at a house, and he used the restroom, in the house. It was awful. Right? I mean, had to, kids were with us, wife was with us, had to leave the house.
Yeah.
Okay. Wanted to go back a few days later. Did it a second time. I mean,
was he marking his
I don't know what it was, but he came out of the bathroom and his wife was like,
were y'all
really?
Right after a coffee hour?
I don't know, but it was very odd to me, and I found that to be very unusual.
I just on a personal note, we had a sales office, and it was a show house, and we had a really nice clawfoot tub in the main bathroom there, and my office was in the main bedroom, and they had been in there multiple times, and they'd purchased a lot and we're going to build a house. And she was like, "Hey, we've come here to get ideas." I said, "Great, come on in." And she said, "Do you mind if I get in the bathtub?" I was like, "Well, are you going to keep your clothes on?" And she said, yeah, I'm going to keep my clothes on. So, okay, no problem. She climbed in the tub and laid there for over 30 minutes. Just while I sat there in the other room doing computer and phone calls, and
just to see if it fit.
Around the corner to see what was going on, and she was just laying there in the tub. Didn't have a phone on her or anything, just trying out a clawfoot tub, and that's actually what she ended up putting in her house. So I was like, okay, that's good for you.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I've had not similar situation, but you have people that have these ideas of what they want, and in our industry we say buyers are liars.
Yes.
Right.
And sellers are too sometimes.
Yeah. So they want an 8-bedroom house and they end up buying a 2-bedroom house, or whatever it may be. Well, this lady, there was a house that came on the market in Mountain View, and I wanted to show her. So we made an appointment for it, but she was like, "There's also this other one in Stony Point, which is like a light years away. It's like in Iredell County." I was like, it's not what you were asking for. It's not what you're looking for. It's not the area. I still want to see it.
Nothing what you told me you wanted.
So I drove. She met me at the office. I drove her out this time. She fell asleep on the way out. Okay, fell asleep. Which I was fine. Maybe she had a long day, whatever. So we get out there and we look at the house. But I have to wake her up when we get there, right? We get in the house. We look at the house. We get back in the car to drive an almost 45 minutes back, 50 minutes back. She falls asleep on the way back.
Is she in the front or the back?
She's in the front. I felt like I had a toddler with me.
How often did you put people in your car back in the day?
Yes, I would.
Do your agents now put people
Never. I mean, very little now. I mean, they're meaning
changed.
It has.
It really, that's probably one of the all-time greatest things COVID changed for real estate. It's like, I'm not putting you in my car. Like, we're done doing that. We'll meet you at the house, and that's just it.
I think
I hauled and hoped, like Bill Gallagher used to say, like I'd put them in there and drive them around, give them a tour. We'd come up with things to talk about for 2 hours, and that's a stretch.
But I think it made agency better for the simple fact that you'd be in a car, and now when people get somebody to, you get somebody that's interested in buying a home, and you're trying to talk to them about buyer agency, and you're just sending it through dot loop to them. Those 2 hours in the car, you talk about agency, you solidify your professionalism, you kind of like build your resume a little bit in their eyes. And I know our new agents miss that.
You do get a chance to build the trust and to let them understand who you are. Also, it could sink you if you suck as an agent. I mean,
for sure.
Maybe, it definitely had its pluses and minuses. I don't miss it. It lets me focus a little more on who's more serious than who wants a tour.
Right.
But I get your point. That is super valid about being able to connect and let that person understand who you are and figure out if they really want to work with you or not.
And, and the other thing that has happened is agents don't explain any paperwork. I really push that our agents do it because they're doing it over dot loop. They're not going line for line. You and I, when we first started, could read our forms upside down and answer any question that they have. Now they're like, hey, there's 32 pages in your email. I need you to click and sign each one of them. And then they're saying, I don't know what I signed. Of course you don't. No. You didn't have anybody explain it.
Big difference though. When you got in 2004, I got in 2000. So I'm far superior. The buyer's agency, the offer to purchase, when you made an offer on a house, it was 2 forms.
Yeah.
And one was a 6-page offer to purchase, and buyer's agency was two pages. And they had rooms for us to, write stuff on the side. Now it's 7, 8 forms, 9 forms, 10. If you got
17 pages for the offer.
It's 48 pages of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean the world's changed a little bit.
Right.
Of course.
No, it definitely has.
That often, tends to happen. Let's change the conversation a little bit. Back to client sales, everything. What's the worst way you think you've been screwed by a client?
So as a builder.
Okay.
So I had a client that wanted to buy a lot and build. And so historically, probably like you had done, is you would sell a lot to an individual and they'd say, hey, we need some ideas on good builders in the area. So really and truly, historically, builders would say, okay, I'll pay you 2%, because new construction, as far as my firm is concerned, we charge 4%. And so you would have 3 or 4 guys that you'd have some rapport with, builders you'd have a rapport with, and you'd say, hey, I'm going to send Tom and Jane Smith to you. They'd like to interview you. If they do choose you, would you be willing to pay me 2%? And they absolutely. Mm-hmm. So there's a builder in town who I was a kind of a younger guy. I'd met him, just out. I knew him, and he was like, hey, I'd love to work with you sometime. So I referred to the normal 3 that I do, and I added him to it. Well, they chose him. I was excited for him. It was great. He was building in the neighborhood that we bought the lot in. So he had some rapport with them about the neighborhood and amenities and stuff. So he signed their paperwork, and they told me, hey, we picked this guy. Yeah. Right? Great. So I call him. And I say, hey, man, leave him voicemail. Hey, man, congratulations. I hear the Smiths are going to work with you. I'll get that paperwork to you soon enough. Yeah. So I send the paperwork to them. Don't get it. They break ground on their house, and I go by there every once in a while just to see where they're at. Yeah. Don't suspect anything. He's a busy guy. He's got a lot of things. He said it was fine. Send another form. Don't get it. Call him. Leave another voicemail. Don't get it. Go by there, and he's on the roof, working.
He's on the roof.
Yeah, and he's normally not a swing the hammer kind of guy. I think he was like inspecting something. And so I'm like, hey, man, I've got this form for you. He's like, leave it in my truck. I'll sign it. I'll bring it by the office. So I left it in his truck, right? I know where this is going. Like at that point, I'm like, this guy's not going to try to pay me, right? So fast forward a couple months, I call him about every other week, just, hey, this is, and then finally I call him again. He doesn't pick up. And I said, look, this looks and feels like you don't want to pay me. Call me. Let's talk about this. So he calls me.
Oh, he does?
Calls me. So not then.
At least, yeah.
He calls me, and I'm in my broker in charge's office at the time, Harry's office. Mm-hmm. And I put him on speakerphone, and he said, look, Hank, you don't deserve 2%. This is a $450,000 house. He said, you don't deserve it, but neither does Harry. And he didn't understand that that Harry was on the phone and who Harry, was to me. And he said, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut you a check for $1,200 straight to you, and I'm not going to pay it to your firm, which is a big no-no.
Yeah, sorry, we don't do that.
Huge no-no.
We're bigger than our commission
right.
checks. Yeah.
So Harry, I start, and Harry stops me, and this is why he's a great mentor. He stops me. He looks at me. He's like, held up a finger, and he's like, hold on. And he said, hey, man, this is Harry. I'm with Hank right now. And the veteran goes, He goes, Hank is getting ready to tell you not to send that check. Send the check to Coldwell Banker. All right, send the check to Coldwell Banker. So we get off the phone, and I'm irate, and I'm like, why are we taking it? He was like, you're getting ready to get nothing when you told him you were getting ready to tell him off, right? It doesn't hinder you from not using them again, right? So take the money, right? Fast forward a couple, that was in 06 when he did this to me. 07 hits, 08, 09, he's not building anything.
No, of course he's not.
We had built some townhomes over by the YMCA. He comes to us and he needs a place to rent. And we rent to him, right? We do rent to him. And he has to live beside Harry McComb for 2 years, right?
That feels so good.
Harry's invested in his kids, talks to him as the genuine person that he is. And it was the one, I've been very fortunate not to get completely hammered by a client or, to not have some input. But I mean, there's certainly been the times, but that's the one time that I feel like I got it put to me.
And the revenge was sweeter just because of you got man, I'm so much better than that. You screwed me over, but whatever.
You have a story that's similar to that?
I not similar to that. I had a case where an agent that worked for me was talking to a heart surgeon in Raleigh, and rapport had been going on, and my agent was leaving for Maine for the summer, and he left, but he said, hey, I'm going to hook you up with Brian. And now this agent that left, he's 20 years older than me. He's from Maine. And so when I met with the heart surgeon, I clearly got the impression that this dude felt like he'd been passed off. Mm-hmm. Not that I was the owner of the firm and broker in charge, and
right.
And so I kind of was digging his vibe that he was a little irritated, and anyway. Long story short, he came to see one property, and I brought up another property that might have worked better based off of his, criteria. And I think the lot we were originally looking at, this was a lot that was $600,000. The lot that met his criteria was a $2 million lot, maybe 1.8, somewhere right around there. And so I said, look, you came here to see this. I'll be glad to show you this. This was my listing. We were going to be dual agents over here. If you're cool with me being a buyer's agent, go over here.
Right.
So we go over there. We walk every square inch. He's got his wife, his kids. Kids are playing all around. I'm answering questions. Everyone's doing great. 2 days later, the lot goes under contract. And I called the listing agent because I knew her, because we all do business together. I said, hey, did you, was the buyer by any chance so-and-so? And she was like, yeah, it was. I said, okay. Well, who was the buyer's agent? And it was someone out of Raleigh. So I said, okay. So it took a few days to get under control.
Right.
I called the buyer's agent and said, hey, out of curiosity. And she said, yeah, he always uses me to make offers. I said, well, does it bother you? Yeah, have you ever been out here? And she goes, well, first of all, you were the seller's agent, and that's why he's using me. And I was like, yeah, no, that's not the case. And they ended up closing. I got totally screwed out of the deal. I ended up getting to represent a buyer on the property several years later. We got to stick it to the seller a little bit, which was
Love that.
I wanted to stick it to him more, but yeah, it was to sit there and watch a 1 I don't know, $8 million, $9 million at the time lot sell, and you did everything and got no part of it. That sucks, but whatever.
Yeah, and and I think the thing is that there's just bad people out there.
Yeah,
and
this dude was a horrible person, and yet he's a he's a cardiologist, or I think he's a heart surgeon in Raleigh, and all I could think of was like, man, I did look him up online, and clearly he had purchased a number of properties in North Carolina. And I forgot about this. I did reach out to the listing. I found out piece of property he bought, and I reached out to that listing agent and said, kind of explained my story, and she said the same thing happened.
Yeah.
So the dude's been going around screwing buyers agents all over the place.
For sure.
Yeah, whatever. I hope you get what's coming to you.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
So you finally get out of selling and go into managing. What do you miss out of selling, if anything? Obviously, we move in directions that we think we want to, but sometimes we look back in retrospect and go, God, I really miss this. Do you miss anything about selling?
I miss handing keys over to people that are excited about their house. Because, mine, I've got 43 agents, and I manage their problems. So I feel like every time I walk into a room for an agent, everyone's at gunpoint. It's not a good scenario. When I'm involved, it's real estate commission complaint, legal issue, house fire 2 days before closing.
House fire the day after.
The house fire the day after closing. There's misrepresentation. There's all these different things, and that's my day-to-day business. I like it when you walk into a house and a kid is excited about the potential of this being their room, and I can learn how to ride my bike outside on the driveway, and how great it's going to be to run in the backyard. I mean, I like that, and that's the way I always say it is and it's this is gonna haunt me with you for the rest of my life. But you don't selling like driveways that you learn how to ride a bike in, and living rooms that you laugh with your family to when you watch TV shows, and picnics in your backyard. That's like the cool thing about selling real estate. I miss that.
Got it.
I miss that. I still get all the seeing people coming in the office and doing it, and agents getting celebrated, and being able to put it on social media about what a great experience they had one of our agents, which I have pride in that. But it's not the same. It's not the same. And the other thing that I really miss is I'm not in as many houses, so people will ask me, "Hey, what do you know that's coming on the market?" It's different for me because I'm not in as many conversations like that. But I used to love it when I'd get a house and it was getting ready to get on the market, and I was getting ready to put it on the market, and I knew somebody was going to absolutely fit for, and you would tell them, and they'd be like, I can't believe you found this for us. And it was like this cool special connection that they were like, you're the man for getting us this house. And so I like that. That's
a pretty cool feeling.
Yeah.
You said handing the keys over, this a little bit of a change of direction. Did you go to closing?
Always.
Really?
Always. You didn't. You don't.
No. I've been to 3 closings in 21 years.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. How do you get reoccurring business?
I had one. It was my first one. Because
you had to deliver wine, apparently.
I'd never been to one, and it was actually the worst experience because it was sellers sitting across from buyers.
Yeah, awful.
Stupidest decision of all real estate. I walked out of that and was like, we're like still negotiating over, BS at the table. I'm like, we're supposed to be signing this, and it was terrible. And I spoke to the attorney afterwards and was like, we can we never do that again?
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, that was, it was weird. Anyway, I had one that a client wanted me to walk the attorney to the bank to make sure he wired it properly.
Oh my gosh.
So the attorney's our age, you know, I'm 49, he's our age, and we were laughing. I was like, man, if this guy thinks I'm going to steal, you know, $800,000,
right.
you know, to ruin my whole life, I was like, yeah, whatever. And then the other was just a friend who's like, I want to go out and have a beer afterwards. So
right.
that was it. My personal philosophy is if I'm sitting at the closing table, it's because I haven't answered the questions that I should have.
Oh, this guy.
Yeah. Answer your questions beforehand. There's no reason to be at the closing table looking like you're waiting on a check.
Well, my personal opinion is that there's more people in that room that can mess up the transaction, and that I'm probably the only one that's going to help fix it.
If the transaction is going to mess up at the very end, then it wasn't that solid to begin with, and that's my philosophy.
Agree to disagree.
Agree to disagree. That's right. So you've been managing since 2015?
15,
so
yeah.
Going on almost 10 years.
Almost 10 years, yeah.
You said 43?
43.
What's the common theme with agents that stick around versus that jump ship? Do you have to, that's got to be, I mean, the grass is always greener on the other side. Hickory's a small town. I know you see it. How does that work out? That's got to be fascinating and irritating all at once.
It is. And you know, I'll go out and say there's a lot of great firms here in town, right? Different philosophies, different agents that want different things. I think the ones that end up staying with us the most is my firm is different because I'm a non-competing broker, right? So the idea of agents coming here, they know that if a lead comes in, it comes into the person that is on duty. Yep. Okay. Our relocation director disperses referrals based on need, area, what the person's looking for, but they know it's not coming to me. Mm-hmm. Okay. They know it's kept my wife out of the business now because I've said, listen, I can't afford for people to think that I'm giving you business. So that's a very important thing. And some agents find value in that because they don't want to compete with their guy. And it's never a problem when times are good, but when the market changes and that the owner has to make that dollar amount to keep their office running, to keep their lights on, to keep their name at the top of the top producer level, that's when it starts to rear its head.
Let's segue into a couple things. What do you think it costs you? What does an agent need to produce to stay on? Like, I mean, we both run businesses. Your office, what do you think? I mean, you can't have an agent sitting there not selling. Is there a dollar figure? I
mean, for me, I've always had $30,000 in my mind.
It's like what you expect.
Is what I expect. And now I know that there's varying things with these things. I've hired a couple new agents, which normally we're all experienced. Like I'll hire experienced agents, but I've hired a couple of new agents and very young agents. And it is very difficult because their sphere, when we were 23 and 24 years old, houses, first-time home buyers were 100,000. And you could find them all over Hickory. All over Hickory. You can't find a single wide in Vail for $100,000 right now. And so their friends aren't buying. And so it makes it, so when I tell them, when I look at them, hey, there's an expectation, I do understand that it is going to be a very difficult year for a 22, 23-year-old to kind of gain traction, right, in the real estate market.
Maybe you're like my old boss who was like, man, you might go a year without sales.
Right.
You might be getting there.
Right.
It's all cyclical.
It is all cyclical. So, and then I think the other thing, as far as our firm is concerned, like I said, there's a lot of firms out there. I think that there's agents that look at two different things. Mm-hmm. I think that there's agents that say, I can handle my business, just pay me what I need to be paid. If I'm going to be part of a firm, I want to be left alone. Right? I want to be left alone. Give me the biggest split. I want to go from there. Then there's agents that say, I need help. I want to have support. I want to be able to talk to somebody about what this deed actually looks like. And I'm not just saying me, but like I have 2 front office staff that are amazing, right? Awesome. That when they're at the office from 8:30 to 5:30. And so I think that there's agents that want somebody to be able to walk it, because there are firms that you are solely working on your own, which is great if you feel comfortable doing that. And I think that's what keeps agents with us for longevity, is they see the value in the support that we give and the training. I mean, all that's part of it.
It's
the support. And so I tell people all the time, when you come here, you're looking for support. You're not looking for the biggest split, because you can get what you're looking for out there. Mm-hmm. And I think the tough thing is agents do jump to find what fits them, and you want them to do it. And I tell people all the time when they interview with me, even people that I love, that I want to come here, go somewhere else, look somewhere else, interview with 5 other people, because you don't want to go through this 2, 3, 4, 5 times.
You don't want to be second guessing with me.
Right.
Like, come to me when you're ready for your career to be awesome and finish up. Yeah, right. I get that. That's pretty cool. Of your 43 agents, what do you think the average stint is with y'all? Could you guess? I mean, that's kind of
out of the 43, like how long have they been with me? Like average?
Yeah. What do you think?
I'd say on average, probably 6 years, 7 years.
Wow.
I mean, I've got a long tenured.
What's your longest? Who's been with you the longest? Who's suffered with you the longest?
Okay, so Donna Austin just retired.
Yeah.
Okay, she just retired. Okay, and she was with us since 2001. Okay, but she was with our firm, bought Century 21 in 01, and so she was there. She's been in over 35 years. Before that, Kathy Hunsucker retired 2 or 3 years ago, and she was with us for 35 years. Bobette Pine, she's been with us over 35 years. She's still an agent with us.
Wow.
Yeah. But Kay Lofton has been there since 01. Teresa Huggins and Donna Lane have been there since 07. I've got a bunch of them that are in that 10-year period. So, I mean, a lot of...
Teresa's volunteered to be one of my victims.
Yeah, she'd be good.
Can't wait.
She'd be good. She's a good one. She's a good one.
That's incredible. It speaks volumes about your firm and how at least Harry ran it, or how you have not run it to the ground. I think that's awesome. That's fantastic. You've hired some rookie agents. Like, are we talking straight out of like wet behind the ears real estate school?
Yeah. Young and rookie agents.
What advice do you give? When they come in, what do you tell them? Like, here's what to expect. Like, we hired a new agent, and I said, man, you need to be comfortable not even sniffing a client, like no paycheck from the week before Thanksgiving until possibly the end of May.
Right.
Like, that's our season, our cycle. This is it. I mean, this is how real as it gets. What do you say to that person coming in the door?
If you make $12,000 to $18,000 this year, you have had a great year. A great year. Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest thing is I want to give people enough rope to hang themselves, because I'll give you a roadmap and I'll say, here is your marketing. This is what you need to do to be a successful agent, because we see it. I see it in my office all the time, and it's very repeatable. It's very repeatable. And I'll say, hey, these are the things. Let's go over these things. Your sphere, your, blah, 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 all these things. Once you get to that point where you realize those are the things you need to do, then I like to step back and see how aggressive they are at doing those things. If they're not going to make it, it's usually that they can't put enough effort into that. And so I feel like real estate is if I had to create a new company that was selling a widget or, some product, I would start with agents, because they're not scared to work. They're great in front of people. They have all kind of different products that they can sell in all kind of different ways.
Put ourselves out there.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would put agents, but the agents that don't make it, and some of it's no fault of their own, but I feel like aren't putting in the effort as much as you need to, because this is a hard job. Because I mean, HGTV makes this job look very easy, right?
$1 million listing.
It is. We drive around picking up checks,
some paint and some trees, and
right. They wouldn't do $1 million listing in Hickory or Catawba County because we'd have to be under single wides and stuff like that. But I feel like that's, the first thing I tell them is this is how much you're going to make, and then work that you don't have to be the smartest agent in the MLS. You have to work hard. If you work hard that first year and you do these things, you're going to be successful. At the end of the year, if they're like, I didn't do that well, I never saw you. Yeah. Did you do these things? And I meet with every one of my agents that want to go over a business plan. And we talk either about, hey, what kind of volume do you want to hit? What kind of units do you want to hit? What do you think has worked for you? What do you think has not worked for you? What would you like to incorporate? What makes you uncomfortable in your business? And so all those things are things that we do. And usually when we meet, it spurs people to make a change in their business, and it affects it. Now, the people that don't want to meet, and that's fine too. But at the end of the year, you can't look at me and say, why didn't I grow my business?
Yeah, exactly. Have you ever had an agent leave and come back?
Yes. I've had several. I had 2 this past year. I had 3 this past year.
Any insight?
One, well, I would say.
Did you hold out the ring and make them kiss it, or
come on,
welcome back with open arms?
Well, listen.
I know you're going to welcome back with open arms because you're that guy. But at the same time, is it? And I told you so, or hey, I'm glad you did that, and now you got that out of your system, and come back and let's make it happen. Walk me through this.
I've watched Harry McComb. If I can, at the end of my career, if I am talked about the way he's talked about at the end of his career, I've done it right. Because he is as honest and fair as anybody I've ever met. So when somebody were to come into me, and I've had it happen multiple times, and they've said, hey, I want to go do something else. If it's the right thing for your family, it's the right thing for you, hey, I'm not going to hold you back. Go do it. They leave, right? Yep. I will still talk to them at board luncheons. I will still ask about their kids. I will still do, because it's the right thing to do. Now, when they leave and they come back, I do. One of the things that my grandfather used to always tell me is the toes you step on today are connected to the ass you kiss tomorrow.
Ooh,
and so,
hold on, say that again.
The toes you step on today are connected to the ass you kiss tomorrow.
Boy, that's a good one.
It's a good one. It's a good one. And so I always think about that on any interaction that I have, especially when I'm talking to our agents, right? So when somebody leaves, there's no burnt bridge because somebody out there is going to burn it.
Correct.
And it's going to come back. And that's all I want is if it validates and when they do come back, it is never held over their head. It is never, I appreciate them coming back. I think our firm loves them to come back. I think in the community, it shows value of our firm is that they'd want to come back. B, we'd accept them back. I'm not ever going to push a good agent away. I mean, if they're going to be a producing agent, they're good people. All 3 that came back or left. 2 of them left because it was all 3 of them left because it was potentially a financial win for them. Yeah. And they did it for several years. And then they decided, hey, the support and the things that
were promised were not really.
And it felt like it's home. Coldwell Banker was home to them. So I love having back.
That's fantastic that you open the back with welcome arms. I mean, that's pretty. It's the right thing to do. And, that means you're in it for the long haul, etc. I want to take it back because I did think of a couple questions that were back to when you were a listing agent. So go back to the micro view. What was the worst listing you ever took? And it could be one that a seller just totally didn't listen to you on suggested price, or it was an absolute piece of shit, or whatever it was.
Right.
What was it? What was your worst listing?
I had a listing in Hickory, and it was a good size listing. It was like $850,000.
That's record setting.
And it was an older couple, and he thought it was worth way more than it was. So we had that argument, and then he didn't want to pay a commission. So we had
give me an idea of what's way more.
$1 million. So he wanted $1 million.
So your price is 8, and he's $1 million. Yeah, 20% higher.
Right, and then he doesn't want to pay a commission, but he wants help selling it. Yeah. And then every night, so we put it on the market within a couple of weeks, like 2 weeks, we get it under contract. Every night after we get it on contract, he calls me, obviously been drinking, and berates me on how he left money on the table every night. And so I stopped taking his phone call. And finally there was an evening where he left me just a long message, and I called him back the next day at like 7 a.m. I called him, and I was pretty furious. I said, listen, nobody's going to talk to me that way, when I'm trying to help you out. And I told him what he said, and he said, I never said that. I said, I have it on my voicemail. I'm driving to your house right now, and I'm going to play it for you, because no man should ever talk to another man like that without being in front of their face. He said, you don't have to come. From that point forward, he never called me again. Never called me again.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So that was a nightmare listing. It turned out fine, but it was but I've had pieces. I had a house that was falling into the lake, and like I've had lots that we were just trying to give to the neighbor. And the neighbor's argument was very good. Why would I want to pay taxes on it when I know you can't sell it? So I've had listings, listings that I've told the person after 3 years of having it, we've had it on the market. We've contacted every neighbor. You can't sell it for $1.
Yeah. Give it away. Pay this person.
It is going to be your grandchildren's legacy one day.
It's that bad.
It's that bad.
A dog is a dog. Has always been a dog. Let's see. What's your biggest pet peeve when dealing with agents?
I thrive off transparency. Like, that's my deal. Is like good, bad, indifferent. Just tell me the story. Don't sugarcoat it. Just tell me the story. And my pet peeve is people dancing around a topic that they don't want to talk about. So
good one.
I hate that. Just tell me what the problem is. Let me help you fix it. Yeah. I'm not judging you on whether you made it right or wrong. You have a problem. Let's deal with it.
We can't solve it if you don't talk
Let's deal with it. So that's one of my pet peeves. The other one that I have, and it happens with the younger generation, is I'll have agents come into me and they're like, I got a problem. What's your problem? My seller's really ticked off. Well, tell me about it. So they talk to me about it. I'm like, okay, when was the last time you kind of talked to them? Today. I was like, okay, what'd they sound like? Well, it was over text. Well, when was the last time you had a voice conversation with them? 3 weeks ago. All right. What I want you to do is I want you to go in your office. I want you to call them. And 99% of the time they come back and they're like, everything's good. I got it all taken care of. Everything's good.
The lost in translation of text.
Yeah.
That nuances and emotions and enthusiasm or whatever does not come across. That is brilliant.
Yeah.
If you could get rid of one form of the 100 million that we use, give me your one form you would chuck out the window.
Let me think about that.
It's easy for me.
Working with real estate agents? Well, I'll tell you the one that I hate and the one I love. Okay. I hate possession. Okay.
Oh,
never give possession.
Possession before closing
or after. Don't ever give it. Don't ever take it. Don't ever give it. So I would
never use that form in 20 years. Never had it.
We do it, and it's nothing but trouble, because what ends up happening is you give a buyer possession before, and he goes, "Wait a minute, I didn't know they fought dogs next door at night," or "Wait, this shower's a lot smaller than I thought it was," or "Did you know that the furnace made that noise every time it kicked in?" So I do not let people in. Do not let people keep possession. The one form that I say that I love and has saved my butt time and time again is professional services disclosure. I love that. Are you going to say get rid of it?
Get rid of it.
You are out of your mind.
You are out of your mind. That's the worst form.
You're out of your mind.
You're out of your mind.
You're out of your mind. Do you know how many times we have a call and somebody's like, hey, I got an easement here, or I've got a problem here. I've got a fence problem here. And I'm like, well, let's go to your file. You didn't have a survey. Well, nobody told me to have a survey. Well, on the professional services disclosure, it says that you waived that survey. Why would it has saved? Oh, you have a problem with your furnace? It says that you did not want an inspection.
Oh my gosh. I so disagree. This is amazing. This is truly, that's the worst form ever. You sit there.
I'm glad you hate it.
Especially when you're using it with dirt.
Well, I mean, our businesses are different.
I sell a lot of houses.
I understand that, but they're
like, we cover you cover home inspection, and you cover surveyor plat, and you need to hire an attorney. It's a miserable, ridiculous form that it covers. It's the most. Let's cover every piece of property ever sold, but actually let's see, it's 13 initial boxes they have to do on page 1 and 6 initial boxes on page 2, and I would say 3 of them are valid. 3.
We use more than that.
Wow. I mean, you shouldn't sell property that has that much problems. You should sell property that has less problems.
And this is the, I mean, I think the difference is if those 43 agents, we end up selling 700, 800, 900. And so it's a numbers thing. We're going to get in trouble. We're going to have these things come up more often. Septic. Well, we have people, I don't want to spend $400 on a survey. I don't want to spend, and we urge them. It is very important. We urge you to do it.
We certainly cover all those things. And, I think it's a form that needs to be narrowed down to, are you selling a house? Then use this professional services disclosure form. If you're selling dirt, you need to use this one. It can't be a catch-all. It's just a terrible form. But that's for the Real Estate Commission, and hopefully they don't listen to this and never get involved. Any of us. We all follow the rules. That's the way it should be. We're not here for one commission. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our first episode of Tales from the Sale. Thank you so much for listening. If you lasted this long with Hank Eimer, we look forward to having Rodney and maybe even Fletcher Edens on the show in the future as co-host. And we look forward to our next contestant, victim, anything else.
Hey, I think that this is great, because I think the thing that people want to know is, they don't have 400 shows on HGTV because people aren't interested in real estate. They are interested, but they want to know the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? They don't want tips on how to buy a house. They want to know what's really going down. And I think by doing what you guys are doing, it's going to, you're going to have an audience.
We're not here to talk about how to do it or techniques or anything else. We're here to hear the feet on the ground, the nitty gritty, the tears, the success, the humor that we encounter on a daily basis.
Sure.
And I really thank you for coming out here.
Oh, man, thanks for having me. It was fun.
Anyway, tune in next time. Thank you.